C2 Wrestling Podcast, CTD and Snowden. We are approaching the end of the year. We are approaching 2026. We are approaching the retirement of John Cena. You just muted yourself. You don't even realize that you did it. So I'm going to point it out before you have to say anything. There is so much to talk about. We have Saturday night's main event. At the time of this recording, 4 matches. Maybe on SmackDown they add a fifth, but I'm not sure that will happen. There's going to be plenty of John Cena talk. There's going to be plenty of John Cena stuff on Saturday. I cannot wait for it. He is going one-on-one with the man that this podcast revolves around. That is Gunther. So we'll get into predictions. We'll get into breakdowns. We'll get into LA Knight talk. There's been a lot of LA Knight chatter since Monday Night Raw. We'll get into Masked Man talk. We'll get into holiday spirit. We'll get into whatever we want to get into after we get into how Snowden's doing today.
How am I doing today? I am typical Snowden. I'm tired. I'm congested. I just ate. I'm still hungry. We're figuring it out one by one, but I am very much excited for this weekend. It is closer and closer we get, the more I want to cry. John Cena, man. Final match. All the interviews are starting to come out. John Cena on Insight, John Cena on Rogan. He's on this podcast, and we're really getting a deeper look out of this whole year, this retirement run of John Cena, and a lot of just interesting tidbits coming out about everything. And it's really putting it into place that John Cena is done. He is retiring. But I'm here to enjoy it. The event should be great. I love the card. I think it's great. I love the route of the NXT versus main roster matches. We've talked about that maybe ad nauseum at this point, but the exhibitions are great. Card should be a lot of fun. Podcast, obviously, as you said, revolves around the guy that should be retiring, John Cena, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. A bit to get into, though, even just throughout the week or two of wrestling. So, where do you want to begin?
I want to talk about John Cena and his basically spree of appearances on podcasts. He was on
Mhm.
Insight with Chris Van Vliet. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was on Bill Simmons' podcast. And I think he was on something else as well. But we've gotten like a boatload of quotes. And I'm not going to go deep diving into so many of them because every Twitter account has pretty much put out all the highlights on them. But I do suggest going and watching all of them. I'm almost done with his Rogan episode. Uh, there was two things that stood out to me that I wanted to touch on. One was I love him calling AJ Styles the best in-ring performer of all time because those who know, like, that is my, that's my, as a kid, as an adult, that's my guy. I love Gunther. Gunther's obviously my guy. But growing up, like, AJ Styles was my John Cena, my Randy Orton, my Batista, my Undertaker, whatever. So I do like that, final rub that he gave AJ Styles. But the other thing that he mentioned, that he's mentioned before, and it kind of like, he's 1000% right when he said it. It kind of like hurt when he said it because of how true it was. He said he's done, on Saturday. And in like 3 or 4 weeks, it's the Royal Rumble. And wrestling's just gonna keep on going. And they're gonna forget him. And the wheel's gonna keep on spinning. And yes, we're not gonna forget John Cena as if he never happened. Obviously, he's still gonna be in the Mount Rushmore conversations, the greatest of all time conversations, the the Hall of Fame, as you point out. Like, all of these things will be very relevant. But come Monday, we're gonna get the highlights of Cena getting choked out by Gunther. But we're gonna be talking about who's the masked man. We're gonna be talking about CM Punk coming back and going after Braun Breaker because Braun Breaker said he's gonna take Punk's wife and his title. Blah blah blah. We're gonna talk about the three-way tag ladder match that might be set up with the Usos now being formed as a team again and the teasing of Jay turning heel. We're going to talk about all of these different things going on because wrestling just keeps going on. If this was a TV show or a movie series, This would be the final episode of a season. This would be Avengers Endgame. This would be one of those. But wrestling's not like that. There's no week 18, there's no Super Bowl. It's just going to keep on spinning. And when he said that, it was like that daunting reality of like, yeah, he's right. We're just going to move on. And that sucks because we're moving on without John Cena.
We are. To counteract your Avengers Endgame, metaphor, this kind of is like Avengers Endgame because it's the end of a saga, but a new saga is going to start. Braun Breaker is maybe that next John Cena, and in 23 years, there's going to be a year-long Braun Breaker retirement tour. Who knows? The end of John Cena, 3 weeks out, he's not wrong. The world is going to move on. We'll forever remember and reference and talk about John Cena, Hall of Fame, all like you said. But it really is a nonstop motion with WWE. You have to move on. Crazier things have happened, if you want to be honest, than John Cena retiring, and they move on. They continue on. So they're going to. Some great shouts by John Cena in the podcast. Like you said, AJ Styles. Great shout to Seth Rollins as well. He's not wrong about AJ either. I mean, when we really get down to the nitty gritty and you're talking in ring performers, maybe it's subjective or arbitrary a little bit, but the Eddies, the Kurtz, the AJ Styles, the Randy Ortons, there's only a handful of all-time in-ring performers that you can really name as the best, and I don't think anybody is upset with him naming AJ Styles. Absolutely love the shout. Got through his Joe Rogan interview. That might be the most open he's really been in any form of podcast or interview. John Cena is usually obviously like the most respectful, reasonable person in the world with that level of fame. You see all these fan interactions, and he just gets it and encounters people in a way of respect. Not that he didn't do that on Rogan, but he usually has a little bit of a wall up to not get into certain things, maybe break a form of kayfabe. Like there's just a certain like avenue you couldn't really reach with John Cena for a while because he was always in it. Now that he's kind of getting out of it, seems like he's really starting to let the ball roll and is talking about a lot more. And it's great to listen to him on a lot of these. I'm about halfway into him on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, and it's been great so far. The interviews, it's a problem though, because I see on Twitter like, oh, he got the podcast on Insight, and I see 7 clips before I even get to the podcast, and I pretty much got through all of it. But looking forward to listening to the rest. It's crazy though. John Cena is gonna be around, again. Like I'm sure he'll pop up every now and again. He'll Hall of Fame. He'll do this or that here and there, but he ain't getting in the ring. He ain't wearing the jorts. It's never really been done before. I believe it was on Insight where he said he's the first wrestler to retire. It really is in a way.
Yeah, he also announced that he signed a 5-year deal as an ambassador or whatever, which they may as well just like mess with that 5 and just make it an infinity symbol. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
5,000.
yeah, obviously he's going to pretty much be an ambassador for WWE until the rest of time. The Rogan interview, though, there's just so much to talk about with Cena. I mean, I have 20 minutes left, and I'm like, they've barely scratched the surface on John Cena as a person, as a performer, as an actor, you name it. I'm like, there's so much to talk about that it nearly like, if they made a John Cena movie, it would kind of do a disservice because there's just too much in his life and career that's happened that a lot of big things are just there's just not enough time to get it all in. Like it's impossible to hit all of these big moments or get all these great stories, you name it. I'm like this podcast, it's like a little over 2 hours. It would have to be like a 200-hour podcast for them to like actually talk about everything.
And it more so would have to be like a couple season docu
Yeah.
series rather than a movie. The podcast is great though. I did not see him on Rogan coming for whatever reason, just never popped up. Rogan's done a couple of wrestlers in the past. Undertaker's been on there, Kurt's been on there, things like that. And I think they're great interviews. People aren't different on Rogan, and that's fine. It's a fantastic interview though. Your favorite part about it, Tony Hinchcliffe, also on the podcast as well.
I
I
got
love.
something to say about that.
All right. Let's hear it.
I don't hate Tony Hinchcliffe. I
Yeah, I
don't.
know. Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I obviously don't.
yeah.
I don't think he's that funny, but he's got funny friends. But he's got his moments. What I do dislike, this is what really grinds my gears.
Hmm.
And this is
I think we're gonna
I
agree on this actually.
I I don't know, but this is the nerd in me. They act like he is, and Rogan specifically, act like he's a fucking connoisseur of wrestling.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a diehard wrestling fan. I know more than the common fan by a lot, but I am by no means an expert throughout all of wrestling. There's plenty of people that talk about wrestlers or moments or whatever where I'm like, I either forgot that even fucking happened or didn't know that happened, whatever. I'm by no means gonna be like, I know more than everybody because I don't. But every time I watch an interview, I'm like, he does not know as much as like people act. Like, yes, he's a fan. I would put it as like he pretty much is the fan who grew up watching and then now like catches the Rumble and Mania because it like reminds him of his childhood. Like he couldn't even there was like such little things
Hmm.
where I was like, you were at the show and you didn't even know Dominic Mysterio was the Intercontinental Champion. Like you're
Yeah.
kind of like all these little things. I'm like, all right, like
Yep.
obviously, I don't expect him to be an expert. But Rogan, calm down, dude. This dude is not fucking. He's not fucking Nardwar of wrestling. All right,
Yeah.
like chill.
Yeah, we agree on that. I figured that's where you were going to go. I think Rogan kind of considers him that because Rogan knows nothing, so little about pro wrestling. I think in that podcast, I don't know if you got to the point yet, but Tony, I think it was Tony, we're seeing a reference as a super kick, and Rogan's like, "What's a super kick?" Didn't you know, like, doesn't know a thing. So, like, to him, the knowledge Tony has, he thinks is through the roof. And I do think Tony does know a lot about wrestling, actually. He is like a lifelong fan. His podcast, though, To Kill Tony's been on 13 years or whatever now, films Monday nights. I don't think he's catching Monday Night Raw really like that often. Pops up at some of these events and whatnot, but I don't know if he's in the weekly sphere like we tend to be. Like you said, catches the Rumble Mania, maybe even the PLEs outside of that. He's a bit more casual with it, but I agree. The little instances of him being like, I think he even referenced Cena turning at the Rumble when it's the Chamber, like those little nuances he wasn't quite nailing. But a little bit more old school of a wrestling fan. I think his knowledge is a little bit more dated. Maybe he's not as in the loop as now. But I do like that Rogan gets him on there, though, with the wrestlers, because Rogan, again, knows so little about wrestling that you have a wrestler like John Cena or The Undertaker on, you're going to talk about it. You need somebody with at least a little bit of knowledge. If you still have a little bit left, you probably didn't get there yet. Not really a spoiler, but John Cena at the end pretty much puts it out there like, I hope this opens up the door to get more wrestlers on here. You got guys like Triple H that need to be on this podcast and whatnot. And I think it would be fantastic. It's just great to get a lot of insight, deeper insight from a lot of these wrestlers on a podcast like that. Again, you might be indifferent to Rogan, that's fine, but it's a great podcast. I had a lot of fun with that one. Seeing a guy like Cena in like that, real situation, not giving a shit, like just talking, chopping it up with the boys. It's like he's on the C2 pod, you know? I love it. Big fan. Also, I do like Tony Hinchcliffe. I'm a fan.
Yeah, whatever. Hearing Cena curse like every other word, I was like, I like we. Not that like I think Cena is fake by any means, but he's so professional, and we just see him so professional all the time that it's like almost a little bit like robotic to where you're like, I know you're cursing up a storm. And
Mm.
like we've heard stories about him throwing drinks back or partying or whatever. Like, he's actually a really chill dude, but he's not gonna do that in just on the fucking red carpet of a movie premiere or whatever. He's gonna be very, very thoughtful, very respectful, very insightful. So it was actually really cool to get like a podcast of him kind of, I don't want to say letting his guard down because he's still the type of person that's like, he's not an open book. He's going to let let people hear what he wants them to hear, smartly so, because he is in so much of the public eye. But it was much more of like a guard down and willing to talk about things. And, one thing that I thought was quite interesting that was I've not seen. I'm gonna get on a high horse for a second. I'm gonna get on a high horse for a second.
All right, let's hear it.
I really, really, really don't like in not just wrestling but the world where someone does something or says something wrong or something controversial and you see it fucking everywhere. And then you see them like elaborate on it or talk about it and you don't see it posted a single fucking place. And that being Cena talking about Vince. When Cena was, pictured having dinner with Vince and whatnot, Twitter was in a fucking uproar. I understand. Like, I get it. I, you know, I don't think Vince is a good person at all. I understand people getting, up in arms, the outrage, whatever, especially because it's Cena. So many people look up to him, whatever. But him on Rogan, where he explained, like, I have so much love for that guy. Like, but that doesn't excuse you from accountability for your actions. And that doesn't, like, clear you of wrongdoings. Like, he was very smart with his words that, like, it is similar to anyone in any shitty situation where you have someone who's like family or like a best friend to you or whatever, or maybe even like a father figure to you, and they do something, like you're still going to have that hurt and that combination of love and whatnot. Who knows? Maybe that dinner with them was, you know, our relationship is tarnished. We're going to talk way less. Whatever. Who knows? Cena does things in person a lot more than over the phone, it seems, whatnot. I don't see anybody talking about Cena saying like, I'm not excusing Vince for what he did. I think he should absolutely be held accountable if he did some seriously wrong things. And it's like, man, where are people posting this? When, when he's at the birthday party and so many others where like that gets shared everywhere, but he's publicly saying on the biggest podcast in the world, like, if he did something wrong, like he absolutely should be getting in trouble for it.
Mhm.
I don't see it anywhere.
Well, it's the narrative these people on the internet wanna enforce, and this is an interesting reference, but there's a recent Superman movie that came out in which John Cena makes a slight cameo in as Peacemaker to weirdly connect the two. But long story short, in the movie, the public eye turns on Superman, and it turns out Lex Luthor has a bunch of literal monkeys in like an alternate dimension that are like tweeting out like fuck Superman all the time and whatnot. And that's really what it is all this like bot farming and some of it's real, some of it's not. But even the ones that are real, they're never going to post that clip of him saying, you gotta be held accountable and whatnot. And Vince does. I don't think people are willing to understand or accept the idea too that like it's pretty clear Vince is like not innocent here. Let's be honest. We all understand that, but there still is a theme of innocent until proven guilty. And I think that holds a bit more weight when it's your family member or your best friend or the guy that made you John Cena, the greatest entertainer the world has ever seen. So it's not as easy for John Cena to disconnect from Vince McMahon as it is for somebody that has been hating on WWE for 20 fucking years and has never met Vince McMahon and all these things, blah, blah, blah. Still, John Cena, though, finds a way to be the most reasonable about it, very, very reasonable. John Cena just gets it. And I think the bigger theme is, too, I think a lot of people do. They're just not voicing it. I think Seth is on record saying similar sentiments in a way. Like there's a couple wrestlers I'm sure that have, and then there's a bunch that say and believe the same thing, but maybe haven't said it in a public forum. I don't get it. John Cena can do no wrong, realistically. He's like one of those guys, one of those celebrities. He really is like a high tier celebrity at this point. He is blown up in Hollywood and he's only getting bigger. And he seems beloved by the entire community all around. So I find it very weird when you get these anti WWE accounts, whatever they are, tweeting out these little clips. I seen a clip very similar of what you said, where it was just the small snippet And I think they had the photo like off in the corner of him out to dinner with Vince or something from 3 years ago, whenever the hell it was. I don't even know. And it's deeper than that. It's way deeper than that.
That being said, people are going to like uproar. I want Vince on Rogan. And like,
1,000,000,000%.
yeah, I
That
wanted
is
to,
like number
yeah,
one.
yeah, like it's not even a question. And people would be like, oh, why would you give him the platform, blah, blah, whatever. It's like, this is going to sound horrible, but if there was like some crazy criminal who committed some crazy crime, like I would be interested in watching a sit down interview, like whatever. It's not like if it's a puff piece, yeah, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm not fucking watching this. Like, I don't give a fuck if they're just trying to like fluff someone up. But if it's like a genuine interview and you're getting like the insight from someone, whatever, which I doubt Vince is going to do
Yeah.
until after this is, figured out or settled, whatever it may be. Because legally he knows every word could be held against him.
Yeah.
But it's like to me, it's like, so what? You never watched the R. Kelly sit down interview when they were grilling him on it, or like anything like that, any true crime doc or whatever, anything like that. If it's not a puff piece, yeah, I absolutely want to fucking watch it.
Do you know the numbers a Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy
Yeah,
Rogan interview would hit?
yeah.
If those guys were alive today
Not
and
to
they got
compare Vince to
no,
him
sure, yes,
or
those are,
them.
but that's even the point though, is like what Vince did is obviously irredeemable in a lot of ways, but Jeffrey Dahmer's a pretty fucking bad dude. It might be a bit of a worse dude if we're gonna compare him like that. But that interview would go even harder, maybe. Those would hit insane numbers. People are, even if they're out there typing, oh, you want Vince McMahon on Rogan? How dare you? How could you want that? Deep, deep in that peanut-sized brain, they want it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you should want it. Like you should want
For good or for bad, too.
now. Yeah, 1,000,000%. The only thing I would say is like it would not be, I don't want to say not a good podcast, but it would not be right or just if they didn't talk about what was going on. If Rogan had Vince on the podcast and they just talked about the fucking Attitude Era and like Vince's relationship with Hogan and like creating Stone Cold or whatever, then it'd be like, all right, there's a clear fucking elephant in the room that needs to be addressed. And you're just kind of giving this guy a platform to look better in the public eye. But if it's a genuine interview or like genuine questions are being asked, hey, the steroid scandal, hey, the handling of this, whatever. Yeah,
Benoit, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't have to be an interrogation,
Mm.
but if those things are addressed or talked about, I'm 1,000,000% fucking watching.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I mean, I think a lot of these podcasters too. I think a guy like Rogan, especially, I don't think he would have Vince on if there was a president set of like, we can't talk about this. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about this. Okay, well, I mean, if we're not going to get into it, let's wait until we can get into it. And Vince might not have a lot of time left to get into it. So I do hope that day comes eventually. The guy seems invincible, as crazy as it is, but
Invincible.
Yeah, he's getting old. But I do hope that time comes where we get to hear a bit more from him, from his side of things. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. After this, we'll go get some fucking terrible tattoos.
Hit it, baby.
Yeah, let me hit you with an RKO and a fucking stunner, and then an AA, and then let me post me with the Intercontinental Championship. Like I'm gonna fucking be facing John Cena or some shit. Way to tangent, but that should be the next Rogan podcast interview. Is fucking Tommy
I
Invincible.
mean, for someone who doesn't want him to blow up, that would fucking blow him up.
Yeah, for good or for bad. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, as we do and fucking go left, right, and center on this podcast, we do have Saturday night's main event. We will get into predictions in a moment. I was not here for Monday Night Raw. I want to briefly touch on LA Knight and a weird ending to Raw because of the like timing of it. Felt a little dragged, but it was a big, big, big ending for LA Knight where Monday Night Raw, he featured like he was in like seven fucking segments. Every time I looked at my laptop, LA Knight was on my screen. Not upset about it, but I'm like, for someone who people think he's buried and they don't treat him right, like this guy sure is my on my screen a fucking lot, which I ain't mad about. But it seems very clear after this past Monday we had Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Braun Breaker take out LA Knight. The show ends with him taking a tsunami onto the car, probably writes him off until the Rumble. Some speculation, maybe he's, a Rumble favorite now, whatever. I think it's quite clear that the title most likely is going on to Braun Breaker, and LA Knight's getting this kind of underdog story that he's, really going to be going for the title, really be chasing it, and maybe get that short little title run and kind of flip flops it with Braun Breaker. But I still think I'd be quite surprised if LA Knight won the Rumble. Like, I just don't. Maybe if it was like a triple threat or something along those lines to have Punk in the match, to kind of beefing it up. I just don't see the world title match being LA Knight versus Braun Breaker at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe his Rumble stock has risen a little bit in comparison to some others, but I'm still in the Gunther train. Gunther's winning that Rumble. Maybe Braun Breaker might win the Rumble at this point. His stock has risen in that sense too. He might not necessarily be champion going into the Rumble, so we'll see. But yeah, LA Knight, I think, is getting a long-term kind of underdog story written off for a little bit, clearly off the back of the tsunami. Great spot. I do like that. Did drag a little bit on Monday. After the match, the main event match, when the Vision was all in the ring and they cut to a commercial, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Going to commercial right now? It was dragging a little bit, but the promo was great. Great spot to write LA Knight off. Gives him that good little comeback when he does come back. We were on record already. Like, I don't want LA Knight just getting right back into it with the Vision and all that. I talked about this a little bit on the Raw review. Like, it's a little tiresome. You got to find out a way to do it better. And it did go down well. Again, Monday was a little bit of a better stepping stone into recovering this LA Knight Vision storyline that's been going on for a while. But it still doesn't lead me to believe that LA Knight is getting the title shot at WrestleMania. I still think Seth might come back in time to take on Braun Breaker, or Punk is involved, or this or that. We've talked about this a little bit ad nauseum over only the last couple weeks, that the storylines going into Mania right now are up in the air. We will know more post the Royal Rumble for sure. But that's where we're at right now, is we need January 5th, and then we need the Rumble to really decide on what's going to happen at WrestleMania.
I'm like amped for these next few weeks. What sucks is you got to like understand that Christmas week we're on SmackDown. They ain't gonna be anything.
Yikes. Yeah.
They're probably gonna be taped. I would assume. That's what WWE's pretty much done. They've given, since this change. They've gotten like Thanksgiving off and Christmas off, whatever. They've really promoted getting wrestlers to spend time with family. Like, great, they should get some holidays off.
Good.
Yeah, like all right, even if it's they're wrestling the 26th, like at least they're off the 25th or whatever. Um, this Raw card on the 5th might go crazy. Like, we have Braun Breaker versus Punk. I assume Raquel faces Stephanie, and then with the tag team situation, we might get a three-way tag match. Maybe it's like a three-way tag ladder match to really spice it up, kind of like how the SmackDown after Mania we got the three-way tag TLC, and it was arguably the best match of the year. I could see that being on the card, and then you get one, maybe two other matches that kind of fill things out. Um, and that's bringing us, that Raw happens. We're what, 3 weeks from the Rumble, pretty much. And at that point, you're just getting Rumble build. You're figuring out the Rumble matches, whatever. Like, we're getting there, and it's about to be like, all right, let's see how you make up for last year. Let's see how you fix some things. The Chamber's going to be insane as well. It being in Chicago, the crowd's going to be awesome. I'm sure Punk's going to like headline. So I'm quite excited for that. I've gotten that point where Survivor Series is not Survivor Series. Saturday Night's Main Event is this Saturday, and I am obviously very excited and very sad that it is here. We've said plenty of times this feels like the start of a new season. This feels like we're getting into it. Like we're past kind of the lull. What sucks is we're going to have that short little lull after because of the holidays, but spend some time with family, watch some old matches, whatever. There's plenty of sports going on. That short little lull, don't harp on it too long because Raw on the 5th should be strong. The Rumble should be strong. The Chamber should be strong. I'm really intrigued on how they're going to have this all play out because this feels like a late, but not too late, strong push for LA Knight to have this big Mania moment. And I think people got to accept it's not impossible that LA Knight's like big Mania match is some sort of like tag match or something taking on the Vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, singles match versus Bronson Reed and LA gets the big win or some sort of tag Vision match. There is a whole other layer to the Vision right now, though. You mentioned LA Knight was in 7 segments, got attacked by everybody, including this masked man. Who is it? The
Who?
rumblings are starting to get a little bit deeper. They might not be using the same person in the mask every week. I saw some rumblings that this is Austin Theory. We've been pretty on board with that. Looked like him at War Games. We've been seeing some rumblings. Man, it might have been Montez Ford under the mask. You mentioned a little earlier before we got on the pod, Grayson Waller. People were saying as a little bit of just like a curve, so they're not using the same body under the mask each time. I still think it's Austin Theory. I think that's pretty reasonable. It makes the most sense. Montez Ford maybe could be under the mask, but I don't know if it's going to actually be him. He's also got a taller, lankier build. I feel like he would kind of stand out a little bit more. Did put on some muscle, I guess, but where does that go into Mania? If it is Austin Theory, are we getting Bronson Reed and Theory versus LA Knight and whoever at WrestleMania? I still am on board of the Vision capturing tag team gold eventually. Maybe we do finally get a hopefully soon to return Penta and Phoenix pairing up at some point, add some even more depth to the Raw tag division, which finally is getting a little bit of life back to it for now. A lot of questions, but a lot of it does revolve right now around, like I said earlier, January 5th. That whole show is going to be electric, as you said. The Rumble. And who is the masked man? And what does that mean for the Vision?
Not just who is the masked man, but when do they get revealed? That is like a massive piece to this because let's say this masked man gets revealed, costing CM Punk the title. Then you might think maybe they're going to set up this masked man versus Punk. Maybe the masked man helps Braun Breaker beat CM Punk, still doesn't get revealed. LA Knight gets a title shot and he costs LA Knight. Maybe the masked man's facing LA Knight at Mania. Maybe the masked man doesn't get revealed until Mania. Who knows? We didn't see him for a week, then we saw him twice in 1 week. So it's kind of hard to gauge. You would assume January 5th would be the moment they do it. Maybe it's at the Rumble. Maybe it's at the Chamber. I would assume we would know before Mania. That feels like a big monkey wrench into all of this because if the masked person is revealed to be Grayson Waller, I love Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller's not facing Punk one on one at Mania. I'd love it. I'd be very happy with it, but that's not happening that quick. If it's Austin Theory and you tell me he faces CM Punk one on one at Mania, I'm like, I mean, I could see it, yeah. Or if he gets revealed it's Theory or it's Waller and they're going for the tag titles at Mania. Okay, yeah, I could see that. If it's Montez, I'm not going to be like, yeah, they're just going to throw Montez in a tag team with Bronson Reed and win the tag titles. Because then it's like, well, you may as well have just brought Angelo Dawkins to the Vision as well. Like, that's kind of the double layer of the masked man. Who is it and when is it? Because the who and the when will bring the where and the why
I do think, I know you're happy with that one. I do
and the
think,
how.
I do think January 5th is the latest of the reveal. I don't think it goes any further than that. I do have a theory, a Austin theory, that I haven't seen thrown around. I'm kind of surprised that maybe I'm just missing it. Haven't seen this talked about, but this masked person, is it possible that it's a masked person's? Could it be a plural of people? We got two segments on Monday Night Raw. Maybe it wasn't the same person in both of those situations. Maybe it was. Also, do got to reference that one of the attacks was on Rey Mysterio. Are we going to get fucking LA and like Rey Mysterio versus the Vision at Mania? Like, you never know at this point. But
Could be for the tag
could
titles.
be for the tag titles, whatever. It maybe the Vision is expanding to even deeper horizons, and we are getting Theory and Montez Ford. I mean, I don't expect this faction to be a 10-person faction necessarily. Adding Logan Paul to it also expanded the group, but it's not ruled out quite yet. I think that would be probably the biggest swerve possible. I think people are expecting it to be Theory, so it being Montez or anybody else would be a bit of like a wow factor. I think the biggest wow factor would it being multiple people. On January 5th, somebody comes out and tries to cost Punk to get stopped, but then another person comes out and they collectively cost him two people unmasked. Wishful thinking, most likely, but it's just a theory.
It's just an Austin theory. I love the thought of like the Vision capturing all this gold. That we need the masked man to be revealed January 5th because Mania is going to be Vision heavy, or at least it should be. And it's like if the masked person isn't revealed until like the chamber, then it's going to kind of feel quick. And I don't need, it's not impossible, but I don't need a 6-man tag of whoever the masked person is, Bronson Reed and Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio, LA Knight, and CM Punk or something like that. Like I don't need that. To me, what was the point of just having war games? Like that was your multi-person match of it. I get it. Rollins' injury obviously threw the monkey wrench into it, but I am interested. I am hopeful. I am intrigued. There's a lot of avenues and a lot of layers. And it's kind of funny. We see a lot of reports. No, this person's going to be champion at Mania. No, this person's winning the Rumble. No, this person is definitely going to be in the main event night too. It's like, as we do on this podcast, when we start talking about this, we say, and then what about this person? And then what about this person? And what about this person? They have that good problem to have that, when you look back at like Mania 28, 29, there wasn't like that depth that we're talking about where you're just kind of throwing shit at the wall. Now it's like you've got relevant guys. Okay, if Penta is back, Penta should be in a marquee match. He didn't even have a Mania match last year.
Yeah, it did.
J-
Fatal four-way.
oh, he was in the Fatal 4-Way. Who got
Mhm.
taken out of the oh, it was Ray
Andrade.
Phoenix.
Ray Phoenix
Yeah, yeah.
replaced Ray. I want to say Andrade. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Ray Phoenix replaced Ray. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Uh that completely pulls away what I was saying, but it still is relevant. Thank you. Uh our quick little
All right, Tony
fact-
Hinchcliffe. All
no,
right.
no, no. I was gonna say our quick little fact check, like much needed. Again, not an expert, not a expert, but Pentas should have a marquee match. Rusev and Sheamus should be in the mix. Ray's obviously gonna have a match. This could be Ray's fucking last Mania. This is Styles' last Mania. Gunther's got to have a match. Brock's got to have a match. I don't need every match to be a fatal 4-way, a 8-man tag, a 6-man tag just to get people on. You've got 2 nights. And we haven't even gotten to the women who are going to get half the card as well.
Or
So
the
it's
other
like,
brand in SmackDown.
yeah, or the other brand. So it's like all of these in theory, in Austin theory, sound great until you're like, there's 20 other people that have to be factored in somehow.
Multi-man matches. It's kind of something that we are, I'm not going to say against being at WrestleMania or any of these PLEs, but it's got to be right. We've pitched this long-term idea of a multi-man and multi-woman intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, triple threat Judgment Day matches makes sense. There's a story to be told there if they went that route. There's not usually a crazy story that leads into the six-man ladder match at WrestleMania or whatever. Maybe there's like a story here and a story here and a story here, and they just put all six of those guys in the match. But usually it doesn't divulge into one big storyline. So I'm more so on the boat of I want singles matches. I only want the multi-man matches if they make sense. But this roster is so deep right now. You got to get a couple of these guys and girls on the card, and that's how it's going to happen. Like we said, LA Knight tag match against the Vision. That's how you get not only LA on the card, but when on paper it looks like Braun Breaker is going to be champion or going for the championship, how else do you get Bronson Reed on the card? He is just as deserving to have a realistically not only match but a fucking world title match at WrestleMania. So you got to get him in there to some degree. I would be upset if his Mania stint this year is just playing second fiddle to Braun Breaker at WrestleMania, managing him essentially. So how do you get him on? LA Knight, like you mentioned, all these other Raw superstars. A lot of layers, like you said, like Shrek would say, like an onion. A lot of layers going into this WrestleMania, but we do have an event to get to before WrestleMania, before the Rumble, before January 5th. Saturday night's main event. Couple matches to get into. We'll obviously save the biggest match of them all for last. But where do you want to begin?
I want to begin by saying it is hilarious that I forgot Penta had a match, and Tony Hinchcliffe did the exact same thing of forgetting Penta was in the triple threat
Yeah.
against Dominic Mysterio. So, absolute hilarious throwback into my face that I did the exact thing I was making fun of him for. Uh,
Full
but
circle.
here, but here on C2, we can admit that and laugh about it and not fucking do what some of these other people on wrestling social media be like, oh no, no, it was just a oh this happened, and fucking relax, okay? Like
It happened.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what happened.
shit happens. I want to talk about the tag match that got made because
We didn't call it or nothing.
I don't want to say that,
It's not in our text with Triple H or anything.
yeah. I we don't get a lot of viewers on this podcast, but I know for fucking sure one of them is Paul Levesque.
Yeah, yeah. Out of the 36 of you each week, one of you
One of
is
you
Paul
is
Levesque.
Paul
Yeah,
Levesque
yeah,
or whoever his right hand
yeah.
man or assistant
Yeah,
or
that
right
that
hand
week
woman,
that Paul
whoever.
Levesque was on vacation and the photos got taken of him, it might have been Nick Khan that week or something, you know.
Someone's fucking watching and listening to this because that was to a T, to a Booker T, what we were saying. I love it. We have Leon Slater, the X Division champion, teaming up with Javon Evans to take on the Raw Tag Team champions of AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. Played out exactly as we were saying. Oh, Styles and Dragon Lee are kind of almost doing like an open challenge type thing. They reviving the tag division. They want to take on all comers, whatever. What team would make the most sense? We don't want Dark State. They're not like doesn't make sense for them. There's so much stock in Javon Evans. Everybody's raving about him. He's gonna get on the card somehow. Well, he's been kind of mixing it up with Leon Slater. So what do? They're starting to work as a tag team. It's the perfect matchup. They're not going to face the fucking Wyatt Six. It doesn't make sense. The only other teams you could have seen would have been like a Street Profits or like a Motor City Machine Guns, where it's like, all right, they're not the champions similar to Bayley, but they're this well established team where it
New
makes
day.
sense. Yeah, the New Day, something like that. I love this matchup. I expect Styles and Dragon Lee to obviously win. They are the Raw Tag Team champions. But I do need a moment where Styles just glances at that X Division title.
I'm looking forward to it, to say the least. This is a fucking great matchup, man. And you know, in hindsight, we're going to be able to look back and go, Javon Evans, Leon Slater, who are young guys, by the time they come up to the main roster, Styles could be done. So it's going to be great to be able to look back and say they did get in the ring with Styles at some point in their career. Um, it's only a four-match card. We're going to get into the other matches. The one bullshit thing though about this match is, man, how disrespectful of WWE to pull Leon Slater from his indie bookings to be on a WWE PLE with John Cena's retirement match. It's all about John Cena. More heads are going to tune into this PLE than a long time. How dare they pull him from indie bookings, man? What is going on? What is this fandom sometimes? I can't even begin to understand it. I understand there's contracts, people sign things, get involved. Leon Slater had some bookings. Who gives a shit about those bookings when this is what's offered to you? A tag team match on a WWE PLE as a TNA champion. Is this the first TNA wrestler on a main roster match that isn't the Rumble?
Uh, Joe Hendry and Mania.
Oh, duh. Yeah, of course. Yeah. How did I forget that? Regardless,
Um,
this is a big.
I think that's probably it,
That's
right?
probably, yeah. I think the rest of it's been
Not counting
NXT.
NXT,
Yeah,
obviously.
of course. Yeah, which is still big enough. But this is like, how do you get somebody noticed? This is how you get somebody noticed. I expect Slater's stock and Javon Evans, but Slater's stock, I expect to be here and be out of the camera by the time this PLE is done on Saturday.
This match is gonna be insane. Like
Insane.
let's let's call it for what
This,
it is.
this is a late in the year match, but this could be match of the year.
Yeah, this is, I think, without question, going to be the best match on the card. Like,
Yes.
you look at it and you're like, this is the one. This is the one that probably opens the show, and they go insane in opening the show. Um, I am obviously super excited for it. I saw it was a GCW's owner, Brett, however you pronounce his last name. I forget who
Yeah,
it was, but someone posted on Twitter saying like, yes, it does suck being that independent promotion and that happening,
sure.
but for someone like Leon Slater, like, this is an unreal opportunity for them. Like, you have to be happy for them. You can have that little bit of anger, but you should have more happiness for Leon to get this moment to really make history in what he's doing. I've seen the rumors that TNA wants AJ Styles to wrestle on their first live show. Who knows? Maybe this fucking sets up AJ Styles versus Leon Slater one on one on their fucking debut show. Like, who knows? Like, who knows what it could lead to? But obviously, I saw people saying, like, oh, this is the most obvious case of contract tampering. Uh, TNA, Carlos Silva, is that his name? Carlos Silva has said,
Really turning
if
into Tony Hinchcliffe tonight. You are just
well, no, I was about to say Brian Silva, and I'm like, I don't think his name's
okay.
Brian.
Ratata.
Yeah, yeah. That's okay.
What
That's
a
what
pull.
came to my
What a
mind.
fucking
The
pull.
fucking Brian Silva. I'm like, that's not his name. His name's Carlos. He liked one of our tweets. I should know
Did
this.
like one of our
Yeah.
tweets. Yes. Thank you,
Um,
Carlos.
yeah, he has said that if a TNA wrestler wants to go to WWE, like, they are going to help them
Mhm.
fulfill that dream. Obviously, that is true, considering Joe Hendry, Jordan Grace. Like, that is obviously a true statement. So I'm very excited for Leon Slater. Very excited for this match. Dragon Lee, yes, he had one bad fucking spot with Ivar on Raw.
Doesn't matter.
Dragon Lee fucking rules. AJ
Rocks.
Styles, greatest of all time in the ring. Thank you, John Cena, for saying what I've been saying for years. This is match of the night. I don't want to say I'm most excited for this match, but I'm pretty fucking excited for this match.
I'm pretty fucking excited for this match. From an exhibition standpoint, it really doesn't get much better than this tag team match. It kind of sounds like I'm probably shitting on the indie companies a little bit, but I do agree. Like, it does probably hurt a little bit to be that indie company. Like, oh, you lost that booking. But not only should you be happy for Leon Slater, there's got to be a level of understanding about why they pulled him. They didn't pull him for another indie or something. Like, he didn't cancel for another indie. There's other companies out there that if they did the same thing, they wouldn't be getting the hate from these same fans that are hating on it just because it's towards WWE. So
We've made plenty of references to TV shows and movies on this podcast, so I'll make another one. In my top 5 favorite movies, imagine in Good Will Hunting if he was like, don't you ever fucking leave this town. I don't care how smart you are. You're going to work this construction job with me for the rest of your life.
yeah, That's
You
what
are
people
not
want.
leaving.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's like the craziest part of it to me is that it's that exactly just in wrestling form. But regardless, it's happening. Should be match of the night. Could literally be match of the year. It is a tag match. Three other matches. Main event's going to get some time. I expect 2 hours of packages for John Cena. So I don't know how much time this match is actually going to get. I would love for this match to get a good 20 minutes and just be a fucking banger.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'd be shocked if any of these matches aren't great. This is the card of the year in
Yeah,
wrestling.
it's the
I don't,
card of the it really
yeah,
is the
yeah,
card of the year.
yeah. I don't care that it's only four matches. This is the card of the year.
Yeah.
Bayley versus Sol Ruca. That fucking rules. I
Yeah.
love this matchup.
Out of left
This
field a little bit, but rules.
1 million
That's
percent.
why it rules.
1 million percent. It's not just like the all right, this person is a champion in NXT, so we'll have them in the match, and this is a relevant person on the main roster, so we'll throw them together. I love this matchup. I also love this matchup because I'm not like fully sold on who's winning this match
Mhm.
because both of them have people that very well could interfere, very well could cause distractions. I know Zarya is going to be ringside. Maybe we get Zarya turns on Sol Ruca here before or after the match. At the same time, Bayley's in the mix with about 17 other women in this women's tag division. Any of them could get involved or cause any distraction or attack earlier. Who knows? I'm going to pick Bayley and say that Zarya either inadvertently cost Sol Ruca or attacks her after the match. And that's kind of like the hey, this is a big moment. This is a story. Tune into NXT now that you know essentially the background on this story. Gets the common person invested of like, oh wow, that match was awesome. These two women are cool. Now they're about to face like, oh, I need to check out NXT and watch them face.
Yeah, I do agree. I'm going to go Bailey here. I think Bailey is a little bit more of a reasonable choice. I also, what I do like about this match is too, this is very like vintage NXT versus new NXT with Bailey versus Sol Ruca. Uh, I do see a world where like Lyra tries to help Bailey and inadvertently Bailey gets cost the match, and that's like another layer to the Bailey and Lyra storyline. But oh, sorry. It seems like this is a match to get Sol Ruca over, you don't need Sol Ruca to win. It's kind of the same with Javon and Leon Slater. They don't need to win the match. I expect a standing ovation for that tag match. We could get one for this women's match as well. I do think AJ Styles and Dragon Lee are pretty much guaranteed to win. I don't know if Bailey's as guaranteed as Styles and Dragon Lee, but I would say a little bit close to it.
I think I'm about to make a hot take here. You're talking about guarantees to win. Is it a hot take to say of the three main roster matches, Cody Rhodes has the least odds as the WWE champion of the guarantee to win?
You beat me
Cody
to
Rhodes,
it.
Cody Rhodes versus Oba Femi. First of all, that's all I gotta say. We have stated many times for since the birth of this channel, even before this channel, if this was not a Gunther Stan account, it would be an Oba Femi Stan account. Like we are big believers in Oba and Gunther being the two guys, like the two guys. Also, Oba with his age and how much more time he has left, on like him being the guy at some point. He takes on Cody Rhodes, and we said he's going to be on this card. We said he's going to have some big match. We were saying he's the one that would face like a Sheamus and win clean or something like that. Now he matches up against QB1, Cody Rhodes. And there's a pretty strong chance that Oba beats Cody Rhodes. And before we talk about that, I just want to mention Oba, we've talked about his accent We've seen him grow in the ring and on the mic. The two best promos in his career so far have been from this chase to Cody Rhodes. I know he had one earlier on. It might have been when he was North American champion or when he had just become NXT champion. He had a really great promo about like the I am inevitable type promo.
Yep.
And I just remember it because it's always in like Obafemi edits. But his two promos on Cody Rhodes, I was like, there's a piece of me that's sad that this isn't fucking WrestleMania.
Yeah. I mean, Oba hasn't cut a bad promo. He hasn't had a bad match, but he's been on fire as of late. The promos he's cut in just this little build to Saturday's main event have really made you go, holy shit, this is the guy to beat, not the WWE champion. I do also think there is a potential storyline to be told with Cody if Cody does lose this match. Like wherever Cody goes after, just against Drew or Gunther or Alistair or whoever, Orton, this can be kind of that stepping stone to Cody, like losing himself a little bit and losing the title. We have said it a billion times. You mentioned Oba's age. If the day Gunther retires, this transitions to an Oba Femi Stan account. It's immediate. It's already in notion. We're just waiting for that to happen. Oba Femi beats Cody Rhodes, let's say, on Saturday night's main event, which it is bold. That is my pick. I'm going Oba Femi. I'm taking that hot take. Your C2 championship isn't on the line this weekend, unfortunately, but I'm going with the bold choice here. We've said strap the rocket to an Oba Femi. He's the guy to come up and immediately go into stardom. I understand there's a little bit of a delay sometimes between NXT and the main roster. Not as many people that watch Raw and SmackDown watch NXT. So, it's tough to kind of call some guys up. The Kevin Owens only happens once every blue moon. This is your Kevin Owens moment with Oba Femi. He's the guy. I think it's Sheamus is like the quickest to win the WWE Championship. 100 and something days. SmackDown versus Raw 2011. The title screen used to say it all the time, or the load screens. Oba Femi is that guy. We've said he should take the open challenge and win the U.S. title. That would be great. But if he gets a win over Cody Rhodes, how is he not immediately upon arrival getting a championship, a world championship matchup? You would think he is probably the guy slated to also get a Rumble spot this year. I don't think he's going to win the Rumble. Maybe gets a touch in the Rumble. He might be on WrestleMania. He might get called up and not even be at Stand and Deliver, but be on WrestleMania. I do expect him to lose the NXT title eventually to, say, a Javon Evans, but you put him on WrestleMania, dude, he could be in the fucking title picture at some point sooner rather than later, just off the back of this match.
I kind of see it all playing out like this. It is obvious they're running Cody versus Drew again. And I don't know if that's going to actually be at the Rumble because that is quite far. It's not impossible. I think it might be like SmackDown January 2nd. That
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like the kind of spot to do it. The first SmackDown of the new year, whatever. I don't. Do you remember when they go back to 3 hours? Is that after Mania?
I think it's
Whatever.
January.
I think it might be. So I
Yeah.
could see that being.
Makes me want to cry more than John Cena retiring.
Yeah, yeah. You're not kidding. I could see that being the main event of that show. Whatever. Uh, but that would be Drew McIntyre costs Cody Rhodes. So Cody does not lose clean to Obafemi, but he still loses to Obafemi. We also know from reports that Cody, as much as people want to call him Hogan, is willing to even lose his title to set up a better story. And him losing to Obafemi would help set up him versus Drew because we've seen him versus Drew 97 times already. Or him versus, Drew and then him versus Orton, whatever. I think it then kind of sets Obafemi's timeline for this. Obafemi has beaten the WWE champion. People are, all those common fans, whatever, who are going to see, like, first off, this guy fucking rules. Second off, he's the champion of
Oh
the
boy.
show. Yeah, he's the champion of the show that I don't really know much about. I'm going to tune in. I want to see him on the CW, whatever. But now it adds even more to his level. He is that high. He's the NXT champion again. How could anybody beat him? We saw this past Tuesday Javon Evans gets screwed by Ricky Saints. I think it kind of lays out the timeline this way. Oba does wrestle at Stand and Deliver. Javon Evans takes on Ricky Saints for the next 2.5 months to build towards that Oba match. And then he beats Oba at Stand and Deliver. And it is this big moment. You beat the guy that beat the guy. So now your NXT champion, who is still very young, is this big, massive star who had this showcase and is now the champion. But Oba Femi, he can lose and be perfectly fine. And he goes right to the main roster and he's in it. And like when I say he goes right to the main roster, okay, he might not face whoever the WWE champion or the world champion is on his first night, but he's gonna face an LA Knight or a Braun Breaker or a Drew McIntyre, a Jacob Fatu, a Randy Orton. Like he immediately jumps a large crop of talent that aren't bad, but we know how the talent is kind of structured. And he's that one step away to where when he finishes that feud, he's immediately going for the title and he's flirting with that 100 days in winning the championship.
What a timeline for a guy like Obafemi. He really does have a lot of time left. He is younger than us. So they got some time. I love it. It's so good. He's the total package. He really is the total package. The theme, the look, the aura, even though we hate that word, he's the total package. But the tag match I'm looking forward to. I don't know which one I'm looking more forward to, the tag match or the Obafemi Cody Rhodes match. But there is one more match.
There is one last match. It is put in the Stewie Griffin. I guess I'll get some sleep. That is going to be me on my red eye back from Las Vegas. I'm gonna, have to rewatch the show, and I'll probably stay up on it, watch the whole show. I'll have like an hour left of the flight, and I'm gonna Stewie Griffin. I guess I'll get some sleep. The flight attendants are gonna be like, "What the fuck is this guy's problem?" They're just gonna look at my screen and just be like, "All right,
I
all
get
right,
it. I understand.
I get it." But it will be a little bit of a mix of tears of joy and tears of sadness because our boy, the ring general, Gunther, goes one on one with John Cena in his retirement match. Gunther's promo on Monday had me juiced. He was on First Take this morning. They were replaying it. Him saying, John Cena, I'm going to make you quit. And when he said that, I've been saying for weeks, Gunther's going to put Cena to sleep. Gunther's going to put Cena to sleep. Gunther should not put Cena to sleep.
He's gonna make John Cena give up was the exact terminology. Something John Cena has never done. And listen, Gunther's my choice here. Gunther wins this match. I've seen some people pitching ways and why John Cena should win. You're wrong. All right, buddy. I get it. It's John Cena. But this is a new phase again. It's a new saga. Gunther has to retire the guy via pinfall. I am not that crazy on it being a submission. It's not like some crazy, like it doesn't matter, like Gunther wins one way or another. I don't know how I feel about him like tapping John Cena out, or I guess I'd rather Cena literally tap than Cena like go to sleep. I get that's like kind of Cena's thing, but I want it to be like a definitive, like Gunther made him lose, not like Cena didn't give up. It's fine for Cena to finally pass that torch. I think that's the ultimate pass of the torch is for Cena to like quote unquote give up.
I I want him to tap. I want
Interesting.
him to tap. I want it to play out exactly like this, where Gunther has him in that sleeper and it seems like he's not going to tap and he's fading and he gets that Cena charge and he gets out of it. And we're starting to buy back in. Shit, Cena really might win his last match. And he gets that AA. And it's the third one. And it's one, two, and somehow Gunther's foot's on the rope. Whatever. But then they're sweaty, they're beaten, they're all beat up. And Gunther locks that choke back in. And he's got it cinched in. And Cena is fading, fading. And he just ever so gently gives that. And he just barely taps. He doesn't want to. He wants to go to sleep, but he just barely taps. And Gunther is established as a guy who John Cena, before he could even pass out, decided, you know what, this is my last night. I don't want to go out as a quitter, but this guy's got me. And he does tap out. And maybe we get kind of in UFC where we had Justin Gaethje versus Habib. And no one thought Justin Gaethje's never going to tap. He's not the tapping type. This guy's insane. And he did tap. And the ref just wasn't quick enough to break it up on that tap. So he tapped and he went to sleep. That's what I want. John Cena gives that his last breath is that tapping motion and then he's passed out. And he gave up.
I'm not complaining either way. I think, again, we just mentioned a few great matches, but this is another great match. The retirement match of John Cena. Gunther is on to bigger and better things after this. I really am just like shocked it's here. It's great. 2024 Money in the Bank is where this whole retirement tour was pitched, and we're at the final leg of it, finally, after a year and a half of waiting for it, essentially. It maybe some of this tour could have played out better, but the last half of this was pretty solid, and the finale of it is peak. This is as good as it can get, if we want to be honest. I've seen some other people pitch some other names, but I know you couldn't be. I couldn't be more happy that it's Gunther.
And I am very excited for not just Saturday, but the future of Gunther. Because as we mentioned, John Cena said it himself. Saturday's going to come and go. The wheel's going to keep on spinning, and that's just fine, to quote CM Punk. We are going to move on. We're still going to remember Cena. We're going to do a whole podcast talking about Cena, the retirement tour, his career, whatever. But we move on to talk about Gunther. We move on to talk about Gunther in the Rumble, Gunther's Mania opponents, Gunther winning the championship off Cody Rhodes, you name it. I can't wait. I know you can't wait. And I also know if you don't subscribe and hear us talk about it, I give up on you.
The C in C2 stands for coward.